last 3 days, I have basically been non-stop building with the new castle kit. I knew I was excited about it, but I don't think I realized I was gonna like it this much. I've just been feeling really inspired to build since it came out. This is a very niche pack. Like, I don't think most people would be all that interested in a tiny castle pack with some castle windows, but I have spent hours and hours working on this giant castle on a 64 by 64 lot this weekend. So welcome back to Speed Build Sunday, where today we are building an absolutely enormous castle in The Sims 4. Right now we're on that giant 64 by 64 lot on the island section in Windenburg. I felt like this castle on the cliffside island was kind of cool. It felt kind of like a realistic location for it. And then the castle that I built, I spent a long time trying to figure out the layout for this. Going into it, all I knew was that I wanted to have walls. The only thing I knew about this was that I wanted to have walls around the outside and a moat surrounding the whole building. The actual castle part, the main building, that was kind of an afterthought for me. I was more excited about the defenses of the building. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I had a reference photo for this, but it wasn't so much a real reference photo as it was like a visual representation of my vision so that I could show my Twitch stream. And I am not joking when I say that my reference photo was a picture of a Lego castle. Like, when you Google medieval castle clip art, that was kind of the vision that I had, and I kept showing people this picture of Legos, and that was like the inspiration. And it was just for the shape of the wall. I was very inspired by this Lego wall, and that was kind of where I started with this building, and we went from there. This is one of those times where when I say this out loud, I feel so ridiculous talking about my Lego inspo photo, but inspiration comes to us from many places, okay? And I just wanted to show my Twitch chat what I was thinking of when I was trying to build this building. And I was kind of going for like medieval castle vibes with this. I'm trying to make it very old-timey. I will say that it's not the most realistic looking building. We were making a bunch of jokes about realism, like we were talking about the moat being dirty and full of like literal sewage because they were probably dumping their sewage into the moat. I'm actually going to show you a really funny detail about the moat at the end of the video when I show you the tour, but like we were kind of trying to be realistic in some ways like that, but also it's The Sims and I wanted it to be functional, so we still have like toilets in this building. There actually is a real chamber pot in The Sims 4 now because it came out in the rent pack, except it's for toddlers only. It doesn't work for adults, and I still wanted the house to work if you wanted to play here, so we do have real toilets. They also have sinks, even though maybe that's not the most realistic thing to have proper plumbing, and we have bathtubs too because of course you need to bathe in The Sims. I did put a fully functional kitchen, and I used, like the base game kind of weird old looking icebox fridge that the Goth family has. I used that kitchen set, so we still have a real kitchen, but it at least looks kind of old, and I put it in the basement and it only has candles lighting it, so hopefully it, seems kind of dark and you can't tell that it's a modern fridge. I'm mostly just telling you this so that we're all on the same page. It's obviously not the most historically accurate, perfect medieval castle, okay? That wasn't my goal. I was kind of just winging it and having fun with it and also making it functional for my Sims. I struggled a lot with the shape of the exterior. You're probably seeing me put all these random towers and like really struggling to make it work. I didn't really know what I wanted it to be like. I knew that I wanted it to be kind of symmetrical, and I knew I wanted it to be kind of big. I wanted to have a huge space for like a ballroom and a throne room inside of the building. And I also wanted to have a lot of like guest room areas. I furnished this house. The whole second floor is all bedrooms, but they're not really designed for any individuals. I kind of just decorated them like really fancy guest rooms with the intention of having like, maybe Sims could come and stay over if they've come to the castle. And the very top floor, the third floor, is like the queen's chambers. And so the whole upstairs belongs just to her. The basement has like some servants' quarters. There's dungeons in the basement. I was actually having a lot of fun going through and like furnishing this and envisioning things. It's funny because this is a ginormous build. It's on a huge lot, but it's actually really not that big of a building, and it didn't really even take me that long either. I think it's partially because a lot of this is kind of empty. Like, it's big and huge, but it's also big and huge because it's got like a big open courtyard space. It's not completely furnished. I didn't put stuff like all in the whole courtyard, That sounds bad. The house is fully furnished, but like, courtyards don't have stuff everywhere. Like, it's got a bunch of empty space and things like the throne room inside. The throne room is fully furnished, but a lot of it is just like a big runner rug looking up to a ginormous throne. And so there isn't a ton of furniture in there. Like, it's a lot of big, vast, open fancy spaces. So it only took me like 6 hours to build this, which is still obviously a long time, but considering how big this lot is, and also comparatively with how long it's taken me to do big builds like this recently, when I built that cruise ship, it was on a smaller lot than this, but that cruise ship took me like a week and a half straight of working on it. So I don't know, it just is surprisingly fast to build castles, I've noticed. Also, I should warn you, at this point, the house is pretty much just the castle kit in the base game. It does very quickly become not just the castle kit in the base game. I very quickly started having a lot of items in here. It was kind of fun to dig through everything in the game and start furnishing with like random stuff that felt appropriate for it. Things like Get Famous has a bunch of like cool prop items that I used. There's like a prop throne from Get Famous that I put in here. The Vampire Pack has a ton of pretty nice, fancy, formal items. Get Together has some good stuff for this too. I was using like romantic garden stuff to have some fountains and a wishing well out back. So I ended up using a lot of packs, and unsurprisingly, this house is so expensive. Honestly, pause for a second and comment. What's your guesstimate for how much you think the place is gonna cost when it's done? Bearing in mind, it's gonna have a lot of really expensive items. Things like the knight statue that cost 8,200 simoleons each, I put everywhere. There's 4 guest bedrooms and 1 queen's bedroom, so there's 5 bedrooms total, plus like the servants' quarters downstairs, so it's kind of like 8 bedrooms total, and it's a castle, so a lot of the furniture is quite expensive. Make your final guesses. I will tell you, I tried to make a guess of how much it would cost unfurnished, so I had done the full shell, and I was like, oh, it's probably like 100,000 simoleons. Turns out it was 275,000 unfurnished, but I had done a couple knight statues, so it wasn't completely unfurnished. So I was way off with my unfurnished guess. And then when I finished furnishing it, I guessed it would cost like around 600,000 simoleons, and I was like kind of right on it. It costs 578,000 total when it's done, which is really bad. It's really, really expensive, and most of that is just knight statues. Let's just say this one is probably not the most realistic for your like average everyday Sims gameplay. The average Sim probably will not be affording this house. I don't really have any desire to play in a castle, to be honest. I mostly just like the idea of building this kind of thing, but it does really take me back to when I was a kid, because when I was younger, oh my god, I used to daydream about stuff like this in The Sims. When I was a kid, I would like draw out and write out stories and plans for my Sims lives, and I used to try and pretend that I was playing with like a kingdom and that I've invented this world or something. Mostly I wanted my Sims to be like little farmers in the kingdom, and I would build them like a little tiny house, and I would play almost kind of off the grid style as a farmer in The Sims, and I would like pretend that there was a castle and a king, but we just didn't really have that kind of stuff back then when I was playing The Sims. So if we had this in The Sims 3, if we had this exact pack when I was like 10 years old, oh, I would have just died to have this, because this fits exactly into my little childhood daydreams. Even now as an adult, I love the idea of playing with like maybe a castle like this, but not as just the castle. I kind of like the idea of playing with like a smaller castle and then putting maybe little cottages dotted around the lot, and then you pretend that you've got like a little kingdom happening. You could maybe even try and rebuild the whole island in Windenburg and have like this giant lot be the castle and like the smaller lot next door be a small farm or something. I don't know. This just really speaks to my inner child when I'm looking at this pack. Maybe that's why I like it so much. But I would like draw out what I thought the buildings should look like, and I'd be like sitting in class after I finished my test or something, like closing my eyes and daydreaming about The Sims, and I would be daydreaming about stuff like this in The Sims, about this like pretend kingdom that I had made up in my head. I don't know how many of you also did that, or likely probably still do that. A lot of the people in my Twitch chat were like, oh my god, I do that at work. Like they'll sit there in the office daydreaming about how their Sims are gonna be when they get home. So this is, I think, a universal experience. We're all still doing this, but it really takes me back to my childhood when I think about it. At this point of the build though, we've pretty much finished the generic shape, and I'm gonna go through and try and figure out the floor plan now, and I must say, I had a hard time with this floor plan. It is a really strange shaped building, and I had a long list of things that I wanted. The number one main thing, and honestly, I was kind of channeling Sims Medieval when I did this, is I wanted to have like a big throne room right when you first walk into the building, because that's what happens in the Sims Medieval game. So I was kind of trying to recreate something along those lines. Let me know if we should do do a video trying to rebuild the Sims Medieval castle. I was thinking about trying to play Sims Medieval for a video this weekend, but I didn't have time to record one. I'm gonna post it in a couple days though, just you wait. I don't know how many of you have seen Sims Medieval, but it's a spin-off of The Sims 3, and it is so wild. I've actually played it a lot on my Twitch stream, so I can link the playlist from my second channel down below for you so you can go and see. And I've definitely made at least one video playing it here on YouTube, but that was before I was like really into it, so I was bad at it, and I'm pretty sure my sim died. But you guys, you can like duel to the death. You can sentence your enemies to be eaten by the pit beast. Like, this game is scary. But anyway, I was kind of channeling that energy as I was building this, and so I wanted to have this like long fancy throne room where you first walk in. I lined it with columns. We've got like all these knight statues everywhere, and that's one of the set pieces I was talking about, that big huge throne. I actually sized it down, believe it or not. It's usually bigger, and it's just a set item from Get Famous. It's not even really a chair. I'm pretty sure your Sims can't even walk up and down the stairs. It is purely decorative. It's used literally as a set piece in the Get Famous acting career, but with the red and the gold and like the stone colors, it fits so perfectly inside of the throne room in here, so I had to use it. It was just a little bit too big, so I sized it down, so now it definitely won't work, even though I don't think that it did work originally, so it doesn't really matter that much. And then as far as other layout stuff goes, on the downstairs to the right of the throne room, we have a huge banquet hall. It's got like 3 tables all lined up in a row, and then to the left, we've got kind of like a hallway with access to the upstairs, and then there's also a little library / office space for the queen. You'll see me kind of trying to figure out the basement and figure out how I want it to be shaped. I used the weird little hallway stuff in the walls to give me access to the basement. So towards the back gate, that's where I put access to the dungeons. I don't really imagine myself using these dungeons all that often. I don't really see my Sims going down there very much, but I decorated them as though there's some dead Sims in there. I put like little piles of skeletons in the dungeon doors because it just kind of felt like it really sold the story. And then there's 2 accesses to the other basement. There's 2 separate basements here. One is scary, one belongs to the servants. And in the servants basement, I have a couple bedrooms for them. They have their own bathroom, and then we also have the kitchen area, and in the kitchen we've got like all the functional kitchen stuff for the whole house. There's also like the little wash basin from laundry day. They have a fireplace and stuff down there. In hindsight, I probably should have tried to put a fireplace in every room in this house, but I didn't really build the shape of the exterior to fit fireplaces everywhere. If I had thought ahead more, it would have been good. Instead, I just put fireplaces wherever they fit. Like wherever it worked and made sense, that's where I added a fireplace. Currently, the first thing I'm furnishing really is the dungeon. I started off by putting like a hay bed down there, and I was originally thinking about putting gnomes in the dungeon as if they were like the prisoners. And then I realized that there's literal skeletons in this game. There's like a human anatomy skeleton model from Get to Work. And then I think it's from Jungle Adventure. There's like a pile of bones that I put on the floor, and I put like spider webs and dirty cracks in the wall and stuff in these 2 dungeons. And I think it really tells a story. This is exactly what I wanted. The pile of bones item I think looks kind of weird because it has that like white sand around it, so it doesn't blend into the ground that nicely, but it's not like we have a huge variety of bone selections to be using in The Sims 4. We kind of have to make do with what we can. And we only have 2 options for skeletons, so I did what I could. There's actually full body standing skeletons from Jungle Adventure 2, but those have spears, and I didn't think that it would be smart of me to be giving weapons to the people in my dungeon, you know? So I didn't use those ones. And then moving upstairs to the second floor, I had a hard time figuring out how I wanted to split this up. Originally, I was thinking about trying to leave it open above the throne room and like trying to do some interesting double high 2-story bookshelves, and it didn't really make any sense. I ended up trying to just keep that space and use it for extra bedrooms. And what we've got up here ends up being 4 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, plus a staircase up to the queen's quarters upstairs. I was going back and forth on how many bathrooms I wanted to add in this building. Part of me was like, put none. Give them literally 0 bathrooms. Do they need them? No. And then I was like, maybe they should all have their own private en-suites, but also I was going for old and like kind of stinky bathroom situation. So there's just 1 bathroom across that whole second floor, even though there's 4 guest rooms. The bathroom does have a toilet, which is lucky. It's a wooden toilet, but it is a toilet nonetheless, and also a tub and a sink. And then I ended up putting a bucket in every single one of their bedrooms that I am pretending is a chamber pot. In real life, they have like fancy chamber pots, like really nice porcelain, like pretty chamber pots. I decided against doing that. It just didn't seem as fun to me to try and like use the toddler stuff one or like find a different item like an urn or something from in-game. I thought the bucket was kind of silly, so I used the bucket as a fake chamber pot in all the bedrooms. It's mostly just there for the meme, which you'll see me add in later. It's hard with Sims building of stuff like this. There's like a constant battle of what makes sense versus what do you actually need in The Sims, because what makes sense in real life does not always add up with The Sims 4. I don't even know what time I'm trying to say this building is set in. I keep calling it a medieval castle, but like, or is it still medieval times right now? I don't know. I haven't really thought that far ahead. It's hard to do like period pieces in The Sims 4 because there's just not enough for it. And like people are gonna walk around with their phone. No matter what you do, they're gonna like play video games on their phone and get phone calls from the neighbors. So I don't know. It's hard. We're moving back outside for a second to start thinking about the moat and the placement of the moat. On my stream, I got a lot of questions that were like, what is a moat? I've never heard of that before. So in case you have not, a moat is like a trench or like a ditch filled with water around a castle or a fort or something. Think old, like really, really old. And they would have this and like maybe drawbridges, like bridges they could raise up and down across the moat and like maybe one entrance into the building as a defense mechanism. Realistically, this would probably be bigger than this, and you want it to be like really deep and not very easily crossable by a person. You can only do so much in The Sims. It's mostly just there for the meme, but I've essentially drawn like a river of water around the building. You'd probably want it to be going like right up to the edge of the building, but it's, you know, it's The Sims, so you can only do so much. And then you'll see I have kind of like a front gate and then like a little bridge that you have to walk across the water to get into the main building. I have a similar thing that I ended up putting in the back, but the back one is kind of like a balcony, which maybe isn't the smartest, most effective thing to do. However, I thought it was funny because it gives people like direct access to dump things into the moat. So on that back balcony, I put a little bucket and then I put one of those poops from Cats and Dogs in the bucket. And then I put that mosquito spawner from the base game, like the VFX thing. So in live mode, there's like a stinking bucket with green air wafting from it and a bunch of flies flying around it. I'll show you, don't worry. But I was having a lot of fun decorating and doing like little chaotic things like that around the outside. The moat is a great source of joy for me, even if it's not the most well done or the most realistic. I don't think I'm that good with terrain manipulation and using terrain tools. I always have a very hard time with the water terrain tools specifically because I think that it always looks kind of like jagged. The edges are not smooth the way that I want them to be, so I always think it looks bad, but I did what I could. I did the best that I could. We are finally moving back inside now at this point because we're gonna start decorating the banquet hall. So I had a dilemma where I didn't know if I wanted to decorate like a ballroom or a dining room, but I settled on the big banquet thing because I loved the idea of a huge long table, and I figured maybe if they need to, they could like move the tables out of the way and have dancing in the middle or something. There are a million chairs at this table. You will never ever ever have need for this. I think there's more chairs than the sim limit is. I think there's probably more than 25 chairs, or if I'm counting correctly, there's exactly 22 chairs. So never mind, you can have this many sims over technically, but good luck trying to get them all to sit here. There's a sim limit where you can't have more sims than that spawning on a lot. So like if you go to the museum or something, it won't have more than 25 sims coming to visit you there. I know a lot about sim limits because I've been playing with this mod recently. It's called crowd control, and when I do my charity streams, basically the mod can hook up to my charity fundraiser page and it knows if so-and-so donated a certain amount through the crowd control extension. It gives them like coins in the crowd control app and they can use those coins to buy stuff in my Sims game, and the mod is completely hooked up. So you could like donate money to my charity stream and then buy killing a sim. And it works. Like you pay money to the charity, it tells the game, and then it spawns the death of the sim. And when I do it, I usually have where you could spend like a certain amount of money and then have a sim spawn with your username in the household. So we'll have like 40 Sims in the household. That's fine. Well, it's not fine actually. It's really bad because usually the game completely breaks, but there'll be like 40 Sims there. The game is totally broken. Someone will spawn a fire with the mod. Everyone starts burning, but because the game is like basically broken, they don't want to do anything to put the fire out. So despite all my best efforts, nobody will extinguish the fire. The firefighters can't spawn because we're past the sim limit. So even if I have a fire alarm or I try and use my phone to call the fire department, they're not coming because there's more than 25 Sims already on the lot. So they can't spawn. And then everybody dies. The entire household, 10, 20 Sims, all dead. The Grim Reaper also will not spawn because we've passed the sim limit. So everybody's just laying there waiting to be reaped. They can't be reaped because the Grim Reaper won't come. So I can't save the game or like stop anything because there's like a death happening, right? It's very bad. It's very bad. I'm telling you this because I'm trying to explain the sim limit and you're probably just getting scared of me when I'm saying it all out loud. But yeah, basically what I mean to say is I am very familiar with sim limit issues in this game. If you like the idea of that, by the way, I always do a massive fundraiser in the month of May on my Twitch streams, and we usually play crowd control a couple times during it. Crowd control is kind of cool. They have it for a bunch of other games too. They have it for like Minecraft and stuff, so you can like spawn the Ender Dragon and kill the streamer in Minecraft. It does work with like bits and stuff, which is how you can pay streamers, but I only ever use it with the charity tool instead. I don't really want people to pay me. I'd rather people pay the charity instead. But next time I do it, I'll let you know. So that way you're ready and prepared. It'll probably be in May though. Anyway, we are now moving upstairs finally to start furnishing the guest bedrooms. I furnished all 4 guest bedrooms pretty much the same. I used the same Realm of Magic bed because it has that beautiful ceiling on it. Ceiling is not the right word, it's a canopy. It's a bed. It's a beautiful like stained glass bed canopy, and I used that and some other fancy furniture and just kind of copied it to all 4 of the guest rooms. And now we are going down into the basement to work on the kitchen and the servants' quarters. A lot of people in my stream were kind of annoyed that the kitchen was in the basement and not like on the main floors of the castle. But my thought is that the queen does not want to see this. She doesn't want to see the kitchen. They're gonna have to bring the food up to her. Is that a good thing? No. But it is what it is. And so I wanted the kitchen to be down here in the basement. Again, it has like the functional base game stuff just so it still works, but I tried to keep it dark so you can't really see that it's a fridge and a stove. And then I put like some wine barrels from Horse Ranch and a few other little decor items like that kind of tried to sell it as a kitchen. I also put a bench, a fireplace, and a little table down here so that they could sit and eat. Realistically, in game, you don't really have servants. I guess you can hire a butler and then assign their bedroom down here if you wanted to play here, but there's space for 6 Sims down here and you just won't need that. You just don't need to have that, so you won't need to worry about it too much. I was actually having a lot of fun playing around with lighting in this build too. I keep talking about how it's so dark, but I don't normally do that in my builds. Oftentimes, I'll just put those little tiny saucer lights everywhere and play in like very, very, very bright spaces. But I need to be more conscious of how lighting can change a space and how it's kind of fun sometimes, especially in these basements, to have like candlelit rooms and only wall sconces. I always complain about the Sims team doing that in their builds, but in my defense, in the official builds, like the base game starter homes, they're just dark and not in a cool way. It's not like a fun artsy style choice. It's just they have bad lighting. And it's just dark and sad and you can't see anything. In this case, it's artsy dark and sad. It's dark and sad, but in a cool way. So we've basically completely furnished everything now except for the queen's quarters. I'm doing some last minute detail touches down here in the basement. I had to add a couple necessities down here too. I ended up putting the outdoor trash can in this basement, which I don't really want to have. Like, I don't want to have a trash can in this house, but for The Sims 4, you just sort of need to have one. You can't really get away without it. Same thing, I had to put a mailbox in the front, and I don't really want to have a mailbox on this house. It doesn't seem right to have a mailbox in this castle, but for it to function in The Sims 4, I had to put one. So we've got a couple weird things that I tried to like hide in sneaky places that are still usable and accessible for you. And then in this queen space upstairs, the whole top floor belongs to just the queen. And I was kind of trying to channel what happens in some of these real life old palaces. If you know anything about Versailles, for example, a lot of times in these old palaces, there's kind of like tiered chambers of the royal family's spaces. So like the first first room is maybe like more of a living room type setting, and that's the least private. So more people are allowed in there. And then as you go further into the different chambers of their private apartments, they get more and more private and less people are welcome to see them. And then it ends with the bedroom. So I kind of tried to do that here, even though it's a weird shape. It's kind of like a circle up here. There's like a living space with some couches at the top of the stairs and then like a private table. I figured maybe the second room would have like meetings in it, so I put a table there. Again, it's all pretend. But I was kind of trying to channel a little bit of maybe how it would be in real life. I am by no means an expert, but I do have a history degree and a special fascination with stuff like this. So even if it's not super realistic, I was trying my best to at least add some realistic slight touches around the place, okay? These are the last rooms that we have to furnish in the whole building though. Obviously I cut out a few parts. It's a very big building, so I tried to make sure that I was keeping only the important stuff in just for sake of time. But as soon as we finish the speed build, I'm gonna pop into the game and then show you a full tour of the entire place. I'm gonna do a walking tour, like in tab mode, and show you everything there is to look at. And of course, this build is on my gallery if you want to download it. My name is just lilsimsie on the gallery, and I put all of my builds up there. If you're ever looking for anything, you can always find it there. You might not be able to find it very easily, and that's not my fault. It's the Sims 4's fault. The gallery is so weird. If you're looking for old builds in particular, good luck. Truly, good luck. I can't even find my own old builds sometimes on the gallery, but if you're watching this when the video comes out, hopefully it'll be easy to find because it's just like the most recent build on my gallery. And with that, we are officially finished with the build. Of course, the welcome wagon is happening. Please stop. Okay, this is the fully finished exterior of the castle. So I'll show you around kind of the outside first. This is the lot that we're on. It's that 64 by 64 lot in Windenburg. When I say it's on an island, I'm not kidding. And there's even these cool walls kind of up around this section of the building. So it kind of feels like a real location for a castle like this. They probably wouldn't need a moat because they have the literal ocean, but you know. The moat is good for the vibes. The main castle building is completely surrounded by walls on the exterior. Out in the castle grounds, I tried to put a couple cute things like this wishing well outside across from the moat. And if you were to come visit this place, ignore the mailbox, you'd walk through this initial castle gate across the drawbridge that I have built and then through the castle walls. Oh wait, hold on. Let's get the fountain on. This is that secondary gate entrance right here. You just walk through this and then you come up straight to the front doors like all of these people have. They're leaving though because I kicked them out. And then you would come in through the main castle doors straight into the throne room. So this is what the throne room looks like. Sorry about that sim laughing. That was kind of creepy. But the throne room has some seating. I put some knight statues everywhere to guard us, and the queen would sit right there. I mean, she wouldn't because it's The Sims and that's not functional, but we can pretend that she would. And then to the right here, this is the banquet hall. It has the ridiculously long table inside. I put some more decorations like the Princess Cordelia bust. We have some paintings. There's more knight statues. There's a fireplace. Down here at the end, I put an organ and also a globe bar. And then on that side, I put this table here. This is supposed to be like helpful for you in The Sims. I thought if you're gonna try and have a party at this house, you could like put the food on this table and then call your Sims to a meal from there just so it's easier. It might be kind of fun to decorate this like a wedding venue because you could put the wedding arch in the middle and then have like seats down the side and have them walk up this aisle, and then you could have the cake on this table or whatever. And then these two doors on the far ends, those are both bathrooms. They're the same. They are very small and very dark. They have one single wooden toilet and a little wooden sink just so it functions in game. Back across and through this way, you can get into the little hallway. We've got a sim playing chess in her pajamas. But this is just a small hallway with access to the upstairs. Through this door, there's a tiny little ladder that goes into the basement. It also kind of like opens into the void a little bit, so just ignore this part. That's more for easy access for gameplay. And then through this door, this is how you get into the library of the castle. So we have a bunch of books and like a desk for the queen to sit at. I loved this because there's so many clutter items that are so good. We have like the quill, there's like a wax seal in this correspondence that I put. There's kind of some storage back here in the tower corner. And if you wanted to, you could come outside from this door. That door across the way goes into the banquet hall. And this just gives you access to like a little courtyard space, but we're gonna come back to this at the end. I wanna go upstairs quickly, so let me just climb my staircase. And then this is the hallway where you've got access to all of the bedrooms. So this first one is the one that I showed you on camera. We've got this really beautiful guest bedroom here with a fancy 4-poster bed. They've got like a desk if they wanted to work on their correspondence in here. And it's just got some, you know, nice storage and stuff for them. That's the bucket that they can pee in if they need to. If you come along further this way, this door just goes to a little balcony so you can look down at the courtyard. And then when you go back inside, at the end of the hallway, we have a couple more bedrooms. This one's same furniture, but in more of a blue tone instead. This one has like a red tone, again, same furniture, but different color scheme. And I almost forgot there's a door down here, and this one also has kind of like a green vibe to it. This one's the nicest one because it also has its own balcony that looks out the front, so that's kind of lucky for them. And then at the very end of the hallway, they have another bathroom. This one's kind of simple, but it does, whoa, I sped up too fast. This one has a little tub and a toilet and stuff. And that staircase that you just saw, that staircase is how you get up to the queen's chamber. So you come up here, she's got like a tea set sitting room right here when you first come up. And then through this door, we've got like the meeting room. And then this takes you into a hallway where you can access the queen's bathroom, which has a little bit fancier stuff in it, and also the queen's bedroom. And that is the fully finished main floor of the building. So you can kind of see everything laid out a little bit better this way now. Of course, it's kind of dark, but here's a better look in the daytime of the whole place. In the courtyard, I tried to put a couple useful things. There's like some fountains and some benches. They have like a nice fountain area to come stand in back here. If you come through this gate right here, this is how you access the dungeons in this door, but you can also see the moat a bit better from back here. And this, my friends, is what I was talking about with the poop and the flies. I really enjoyed putting this item here. I also made this part a little bit darker and dirtier because I figured that they keep coming out this door to dump their poop in the moat. So it's probably making the foundation a little bit grosser. So I put that there with like a puddle of who knows what. Isn't that so gross? This item, this is like a mosquito spawner. In build mode, it looks like a square, but when you're in live mode, it's VFX. I have a couple more things like fish ones. There's an alligator one. I put some fireflies around the place too. And then if you wanted to go into the dungeons, you'd climb through this staircase right here, and this would take you into the basement dungeon section. I put a chair and a bucket for the guard who has to keep watch, and there's just 2 dungeons down here. We've got the first one with a couple dead bodies and a mouse hole. I pictured this guy, he died knocking on the door trying to get out, but you know, he's still here. And then next door, their neighbors are also just hanging out. So that's the dungeon. And then if you wanted to get into the servant quarters, you could use the ladder right here or this door. There's like 2 staircases. The one on the right leads you straight into the kitchen. So this is what that kitchen is looking like. I put some like dried herbs up here. They have some pots on the wall. They have the fireplace, and they also have like the nice barrels and stuff. This is the servant's bathroom. I gave them the worse wooden toilet, but they still have a tub and a sink down here. And then through this door, you can access the hallway, and this has the servant quarters. That's the ladder. And around this, you can get to the other side of the staircase if you wanted to. I just put 2 to make it easier access. All of these rooms are the same. They have 2 beds and a mirror and like a little hook to hang up a coat or a hat or whatever. But I tried to put a couple slightly different things on each nightstand so they're a bit more interesting. But that is the fully finished castle. That is my giant 4-story ridiculous castle build, and I hope that you enjoyed this. Hopefully the tour was fun and not too shocking. I hope you didn't feel sick watching my tab mode tour. If you liked this video, I posted a couple smaller castle builds the past couple of days. I did a fairy castle, and I also tried to use the pack to make like a normal house. So if you want to see those, I'll link them down below. And if you like the idea of big builds like this, I always do these for the most part live first on my Twitch channel, so I can link my Twitch streams down below too. I play The Sims pretty much every day over on Twitch, although I do not stream on Sundays. So every day except for today, I'll be live playing The Sims over there. And with that, I'm gonna go. So thank you for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. Hopefully you're not mad about these long build videos because I keep posting so many giant builds here on YouTube. I like them, but hopefully you do too.